We welcome you to the show of numerical excellence alongside the great Jemele Hill. I'm the above average Michael Smith. Today's show is going to be a knockout because Mike Tyson, as Jemele just mentioned, will step into our ring and talk about his new book, Undisputed Truth. We'll also get into whether the NFL's head of officials was completely truthful about the final play of the Patriots-Panthers game with Colin Cowherd, who has a book out himself called You Heard Me.
And meanwhile, authorities are still trying to determine the truth about whether Jameis Winston was involved in an alleged sexual assault. The number in the news for Jameis Winston is 20. In this week's HeismanPundit.com straw poll, the FSU freshman is first with 20 points, 4 fewer than last week, despite being in the midst of an investigation into an alleged sexual assault that took place in December 2012. Now, there's been a new development that will almost certainly impact how the voters feel about Winston. An attorney working on behalf of a woman who filed the sexual assault complaint against Winston released a statement to the Tampa Bay Times. In the statement, the family claims the investigating detective told the accuser that Tallahassee is a, quote, big football town and her client's life could be, quote, made miserable if she pursued a case against Winston. Here's more from that statement. The family was shocked to hear that Winston's attorney was not only aware of the case, but had been told by Tallahassee Police Department that the case had been closed in February. All the while, the family was awaiting blood work results until early April. It was never the intent of the victim or the family for this to become public. The victim was trying to move on with her life, which has now been turned upside down. Once again, we have not been the source of any information prior to this release. There was no benefit in that. Winston has not been charged and, according to his attorney, has not been interviewed by police. Mike, there's so much to digest with this. What's your reaction?
Appalled, sickened, if this is in fact true, these allegations. I guess it proves once again, while so many sexual assault and rape cases go unreported, it perpetuates every negative stereotype about big-time football at every level. We saw it recently in Ohio with Steubenville, at college football, pro football, where, you know, they get benefits and protection from law enforcement, again, allegedly in this case. But it's just really disheartening because this is, not only does the state attorney have to finish investigating Jameis Winston and whether or not he was involved in this, but now they got to investigate the Tallahassee PD. And according to this statement, at least, perhaps the Florida State University Police Department.
Absolutely.
Which they apparently got a copy of this heavily redacted police report. So I'm sitting up here saying a lot of people got some explaining to do, starting with Detective Scott Angelo, the person who supposedly told the accuser, Tallahassee is a big football town. And if I'm Jameis Winston, the least of my concerns right now is whether or not my name goes on the Heisman Trophy, but my name itself, my last name, my family name, my reputation. I know it's his constitutional right not to cooperate or speak with authorities or make a statement, but I would really, really like to hear from him at this point because he's flat out being accused of rape.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, as you said, and as I said in setting this all up, he hasn't been charged, nor has he ever been interviewed. And I don't know, we don't know anything about what happened on whatever this incident occurred, what happened in December 2012. But what was very clear from this family statement was that there was a lot of missteps or a lot of unwillingness to even pursue this, to even see if there was something that if a crime had occurred. That's their job.
The attorney was told that the case was closed. It sounded like they never opened it.
Yeah, it does. And it sounds like they weren't interested in finding out what the real facts of the case were, especially talking about, according to the statement, that Jameis Winston's roommate may have actually witnessed the attack. So I'm wondering, did you ever interview him or what became of that statement? And especially this blood work, I believe told the victim's family, like, no, we don't need to do that.
Right.
So it sounds like this detective, whoever he is, I'm not aware, I don't know what his record is, I don't know anything about this man, but I need to hear from the Tallahassee police. I need some assurance that none of this was true. Otherwise, this just adds even more speculation and more doubt upon a matter that I think for the most part we thought was winding down. Now, Mark Schlabach, he was on First Take earlier, and he said that the decision to file or not file charges will be made within a week. And the Heisman, as you said, should be the least of anybody's concerns. But if I'm a Heisman voter, and I was once one, there's no way that I could vote for Jameis Winston reading this report.
Yeah.
Now, that may seem unfair because I definitely believe in innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But this would make me so uncomfortable. Yeah, because it's not just about, even if he's completely innocent, it would be about what that school, what the town itself, I just would not feel good voting for him.
And I understand where you're coming from, and I cannot disagree with you, and I would hate to be a Heisman voter. It's a heavy responsibility that they now have. But I would be uncomfortable with somebody passing judgment, even with this damning statement here, passing judgment on this situation and denying Jameis Winston something that he may have earned on the field. The only reason I say that is, what if you don't vote for Jameis Winston, you vote for, ironically, Johnny Manziel, and then come to find out, and Jameis Winston's exonerated? Then what? Or what if you vote for Johnny Manziel or somebody else and that individual gets in trouble? As a matter of fact, Johnny Manziel was in some trouble prior to winning the Heisman Trophy, not this level of trouble. So I get what you're saying about the reluctance to be embarrassed and have the Heisman Trust be embarrassed. Again, this is trivial. Apologize if this comes across as trivial. But in the grand scheme of things, I think you have to go with the facts that you have. And right now, the fact is he hasn't been charged. And the fact is he hasn't been arrested. So the facts that we have right now is 28 touchdowns and 3,000 yards. And your Heisman voter, you still got to go for the guy.
You brought up the fact that you think that he should make the decision
I need to hear
publicly,
from him, yes.
right? I would need to at least hear that. And I have to say that it makes me immediately question. I know it's his right. His decision not to talk to police.
And when you hear the fact that police essentially, allegedly, swept it under the rug, it makes him seem guilty even without a full-on investigation. It's really unfortunate all the way around. Most important, nobody wants justice denied. That's the worst part of this.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the number of the news for Niners linebacker Ahmad Brooks, and it's $15,750. According to Adam Schefter, the league has fined him $15,750 for his high hit on Drew Brees Sunday. So Ray Lewis volunteered to pay half the fine. Teddy Bruschi said he'd pick up a third. So by my math, they're on the hook for $13,125. I said yesterday that I might put something on it.
Well,
might.
Okay.
I got some bills due.
Right, got to ask the wife for permission.
I already spent up my allowance. So okay. I may have to checks in the mail on my Brooks. Meanwhile, I assume, Miss San Francisco 49ers #1 fan, I assume you got a problem with the league finding.
Okay, I have a problem with this, and not because I'm a fan of the 49ers. It's because I'm a fan of football, Mike. I don't care what uniform Ahmad Brooks was wearing. I would still feel like this was a miscarriage. This was an injustice that occurred.
More people.
No, I don't. As I have pointed out to you many, many times, there was nothing wrong with that hit. And if I'm defensive players in the NFL, they need to all chip into the pot to make a statement against the NFL.
Are you looking at the same thing?
Yes, I am. And you know what I see? I see an arm around a collarbone, shoulder area.
I see somebody's head being separated from his body almost.
And I do not see a hit to the head, or I don't see anything that would be construed dangerous. All I see is pure football. Defensive players, you're putting them again in an impossible position. Can't hit them high. Can't hit him low. So where can you hit him? Okay, you hit him too.
Head or neck area.
That wasn't the head, Mike.
Or neck.
Mike, that is his shoulder.
Head, that's his neck.
Which is attached to your neck. So what you supposed to do?
And the hip bone's connected to the hip bone. We can play anatomy all you want. Okay, bottom line is he hit him high, and in real time it was a flag. And even after reviewing it, he went high on a shorter quarterback. I know it's not
a shorter quarterback who dipped down upon being hit.
I know it's not the football we grew up watching, but them be the rules, as they say. And they're protecting quarterbacks, especially elite quarterbacks like Drew Brees. So
they get to do their job.
You're so upset about it? Why don't you pitch in? How much you got?
See, my checking, the way my savings account works, my checking going to my savings. I got to transfer it. It don't even work that way.
It takes a minute.
Look,
I got you.
This was wrong. And defensive players, they need to be upset about this. They should be very upset.
I'm sure they are.
Because the league is basically changing the target zone all the time to protect one position.
No, they're not changing anything.
Yeah, they are.
Neck. He hit him in the neck.
They should have reviewed that and done nothing. Do you have a problem with the league finding Ahmad Brooks? The numbers say no. The league the league reviews all violations of player safety related rules and determined that Brooks' forcible hit to Drew Brees' neck area was either unnecessary, avoidable, or gratuitous. Anyway, entering the day, 56% of players who committed a roughing the passer penalty this year had been fined by the league, and I bet most of those was wrong too. I'm gonna just say.
But hey, he got Ray Lewis with the MX card ready to pay for it.
The number in the news for Santana Moss is 106.7. Moss was on 106.7, The Fan in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and he indicated he didn't appreciate RG3 not taking the blame for throwing the interception late in the loss to Philly. Take a listen to what he said about his franchise QB.
As a leader, you understand that if you're involved in a situation, whether you're the receiver, the quarterback, the guys making the tackle, whoever, regardless of the outcome, good or bad, you have to at some point stand up and say, me or I. If we're going to win games, we need to win games with our guy saying at the end of the day, I didn't make a play, regardless if it wasn't him.
And coincidentally, there is an I in Griffith. Anyway, it's one thing for the media to criticize RG3, but this is coming from a teammate, Mike. Is RG3 starting to lose the locker room?
Wishful thinking, I'm going to say no, that he's not losing the locker room. And again, that's wishful thinking. Because when you start to hear a teammate like a Santana Moss, a veteran, respected teammate, come out and publicly call you out, listen, I could explain away Washington Post columns. I could even explain away a Hall of Famer like Darryl Green and a former Redskin like Fred Smoot. But when a teammate's saying, hey, man, check yourself, that's a problem, which he needs to figure out a way. I don't know if it's taking him out to dinner, calling a team meeting or something. But I don't think he's lost the locker room because it seems like most guys have privately backed RG3. I think it's general frustration. Does he have a lot to learn? Yes. Does he need to choose his words more carefully? Absolutely. But I think right now they're just losing, and they're all frustrated. There was so many high hopes off of last year for this year until when things aren't going well, a lot of finger pointing is going on. And if he's pointing, what's the saying? He's pointing the finger out, you should be pointing the thumb back in or whatever. Whatever the saying is, I totally messed it up. They want to hear more of that, and I get that. And I think with maturity, he'll get it, but I don't think he's a bad kid. I don't think he has bad intentions.
No, I don't think he's a bad kid, nor, like you do, I think he has bad intentions. And this is part of the growing up process. Now, admittedly for him, it's a lot different because he has to grow up a little bit faster, given how he performed last year, and I think the expectations in him were high. But let's rewind this all the way back. And this is why I do think he is losing the locker room. When you start a campaign based off your recovery, that's all about you. That might
rub some. What's it going to be about?
Okay,
I mean, let's just get over this all in for one thing.
He shouldn't have done the campaign. That's number one.
He's not the first person that
should not have done it.
Okay, fine, I'll give you.
Should not have done it.
Fine.
Because not only was it was putting his teammates in a little bit of a bad position. Because again, it became all about him. It also was putting unfair and heightened expectations upon how he would perform this year. And given the severity of his knee injury,
that was on you. That was on you. Nobody said he didn't say I'm gonna come back and week one and throw for 500 yards. He says I'm all in to be back from this knee injury.
He did everything possible to heighten expectations, talking about how, much like Derrick Rose, talking about how he could run faster, how he was better.
Never said that.
He did say he could.
I missed
he
that.
said that he was back more 1,000%. I think that was the word he used.
Was healthy,
and that he could run just as not, if not better than before. So again, you're putting expectations on yourself that you don't even know how you're going to perform. Then, obviously, we get into this season, they've struggled, and RG3 has done this week in and week out. It's been the coaches, it's been everything else. He hasn't done a lot of accepting responsibility.
He needs to own it. He needs to listen to some Drake.
And
own it, own it, own it, own it, own it, own it.
I mean, and in one fell swoop, he called out his coaches, his O-line, and his wide receivers.
Eventually, he got around to saying,
eventually,
it was on me. That's the problem. I choose the words more carefully.
Is RG3 starting to lose the locker room? The numbers say yes. He's already lost his veteran receiver by failing to connect on the field. Griffin has completed just 47% of his passes when targeting Santana Moss. Of the 93 QB receiver duos with 40 targets this season, Griffin and Moss ranked second to last.
No wonder Santana's salty.
Yeah, I'd be mad too if I wasn't getting the ball.
The locker room. He's losing games.
Okay.
The number of the news for the Panthers is 5. They're 5th in the latest ESPN.com power rankings, up from 9th last week, thanks to that thrilling victory over the Patriots on Monday night. The Seahawks took over the top spot from the Chiefs, who dropped to 3rd behind the Broncos, with the Saints coming in 4th ahead of Carolina. Now, maybe I should have bought a bigger bandwagon because this baby is filling up awfully quickly. Although fifth feels about right to me. What about you? Are the Panthers overrated, underrated, perfectly rated? What say you?
I think they're underrated, actually, and I'm amazed.
Top 5 team we talking about.
I'm amazed that you should be not only driving the bandwagon, which you have been. You should be opening up seats. Like, come on, everybody join in.
I'm lightly tapping the brakes is what I'm doing.
No, look, Carolina obviously on an impressive win streak. I think to go back-to-back weeks to beat the caliber teams that they've beaten, San Francisco, and then to follow that up with a win to the Patriots. I think that speaks volumes about where this team is.
So how high should they be rated? If 5 ain't good enough for you,
honestly, I think I would put them second.
Second in the league, behind the Broncos.
Okay, at the very least, give me this. Don't they probably deserve to be ahead of the Chiefs?
Probably not. Oh, wait a minute.
Wait, they don't?
I can't believe this role reversal is taking place right now. Now you're about to have me sit up here and defend the Chiefs. But they are 9-1. I mean, let's just go to the basic numbers.
Okay, but your record doesn't make you the top team, or that doesn't determine where you're ranked. That's you saying that all the time.
But bottom line is you got the 91 Broncos, the 10-1 Seahawks, the 91 Chiefs, and the 8-2 Saints. So yeah, the 73 Panthers belong fifth. And let me call you on your hypocrisy just for a second. Because 2 weeks ago when they beat your beloved 49ers, and I know you're being objective, I was like, hey, give Cam Newton credit. Oh, they only scored 10 points. So
right.
1 point win over Carolina, and then a win that we just spent the last 2 days arguing whether or not the Patriots should have to play from the 1-yard line to end the game. Now you put them as the best team in the NFC?
Okay, first of all, that was related to a Cam Newton question. I never questioned the whole team, but you wanted me to basically throw a championship parade. I was like, well
y'all all putting Cam in Canton now, so what's the difference? I was just ahead of the curve.
That's your guy. Look, he played, I think this Patriots game, you could argue, even though it statistically wasn't the best game of his career, but it was the best game of his career, given who he beat, given the way that he played, and just the maturity, everything we expected Cam Newton showed up in.
But they ain't played the Saints. 5 is plenty good enough. Let's see how they handle having nice things. Okay. They still got 2 games against the Saints. They got the Jets. They're at Miami this week. With all that drama, not a given. They got Tampa. We just finished talking about whether Greg Schiano has rediscovered his locker room.
Left on the schedule
twice.
Right.
So, I mean, before you start saying they're the best team in the NFC, I just need to see a little bit more. That's all I'm saying to you.
Wait a minute. You need to see more? They haven't showed you enough?
No, they showed me enough to be number 5. They're not the best team in the NFC. I don't understand. I'm not speaking Greek.
It's real simple, Mike. You see it, you start to believe in it. You believed
You're just a Johnny come late.
You believed it before you saw it.
I know.
Which is why
I can tell you that it's not time to make them the best team in the NFC.
Okay.
I'm the resident experts on the Carolina here. Is Carolina underrated at number 5 in the ESPN.com power rankings? This is some bull here.
FCC, the numbers say yes, but only very slightly. The Panthers deserve to be ranked at least ahead of the Chiefs. Wow, who just said that?
That's ironic.
They've scored more points, allowed fewer points, and played a tougher schedule than Kansas City.
I know, but
just stay being wrong. All right, tonight on ESPN2, undefeated and 16th ranked Northern Illinois goes up against Toledo, and if you haven't seen Jordan Lynch, you need to check him out, quarterback for Northern Illinois. Then on Thursday on ESPN, Rutgers against number 18, Central Florida.
We got company. One and only Colin Cowherd is here, author of the new book, You Heard Me.
Half naked. What's up with that? Sex symbol, trying to boost the female
just glistening.
Leadership all over your body.
Okay. Listen, I eat cantaloupe, I do sit-ups, I take care of myself. I'm in good shape for like a media person. Let's not go crazy.
Okay.
That's true. Relatively speaking, you're a stud.
Well, I mean, in most of the rooms in this facility.
In this room, I mean, it wouldn't be me. I'd have a shirt on.
When I first met him, he didn't do pocket squares.
Oh, well.
Talk about upgrading.
Look at that.
I may have abs. I don't have pocket squares.
Abs, pocket squares.
What we do have is a number of the news for Dean Blandino, and it's 853. The NFL Vice President of Officiating says he approves of the officials picking up a pass interference flag on the final play of the Patriots-Panthers game based on Rule 853, which states that pass interference is disallowed on an uncatchable pass. Here's Blandino attempting to explain why.
I wouldn't say that they were wrong. They used proper mechanics. They got together after the play. They determined that in their judgment that the contact occurred simultaneous with the ball being intercepted. When we look at tight judgment calls like this and we feel that the officials followed proper mechanics, we do not downgrade the officials for this type of situation.
That is the most politically savvy I wouldn't say they were wrong.
Right?
I said they were right.
It's not good.
In their judgment, and also, what was the last part? What was the last part he said? Oh, we're not going to.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to doubt
for mechanics.
Exactly.
Everything but they got it wrong. Colin, why don't they just come out and admit that they got it wrong, that the officials got it wrong?
Well, generally speaking, tackling receivers in the end zone is a really bad thing. So you can't tackle receivers in the end zone. I thought they blew the call. It's very difficult for corporations, companies, leagues to acknowledge, wow, we really whiffed on this. This is what public relation firms and departments are for. I think you can almost argue your way you can argue your way these days out of virtually everything except illegal motion. Because the league has become increasingly about official interpretation.
Judgment.
It really has become a judgment league. And it wasn't. I mean, I can remember being on my radio show 3 years ago and saying, the NBA is a judgment league. In the NFL, outside of pass interference, everything's black and white. It's not anymore. I watch football games like you guys do. After replays, I'm like, I'm not sure what the call is. I've never done that.
Instant replay may be the best and worst thing to happen in the NFL.
It unveils the truth, and I'm not sure what the truth is after it's unveiled. So the league's become an interpretation league, which the NBA, it's always been that. Right. It's virtually, even traveling, palming. Magic Johnson, you can argue, palmed most of his career.
Continuation.
Right. But that's what the NFL's becoming. It's a very fluid game. It's changing. The rules are changing, and it's confusing. And it's confusing to the officials, too, not just us, the consumer.
Yeah, you can tell that just based, we had Jerry Austin on yesterday, and he thought that they interpreted the rule correctly. But then you have Mike Pereira, he also, former head of officials for the NFL, and he had the complete opposite opinion. So even if there's among the media analysts that are officials, they can't still decide. Imagine the guys on the field.
Listen, golf is the one sport where it's the gentleman's game, it's black and white. But I would say increasingly with technology, as you said, technology is changing the games. And it's forcing us, we see technology, and then in the off season, all these leagues go, okay, now everybody sees it. I have never seen, even baseball's going to replay. Technology's changing it, interpretation's changing it. Our sports, more than any time in my life, are fluid. Remember, football's played at several levels. Canadian, used to be XFL, high school, college. The NFL is the most popular, but it's all these leagues have different rules. But the NFL, because of safety concerns, is more than any level of football massively changing how they govern and legislate the sport. And I think for a lot of us, it's confusing. Remember the Calvin Johnson touchdown opening day 2 years ago?
In Chicago.
Yes.
Right.
That was the moment where I'm like,
why is that not a touchdown? Common sense told you it was a touchdown.
Opening day 2 years ago. I literally sat there and I'm like, wow. For the first time in my life, I don't understand all the rules of football.
Listen, on this show, we're either right or wrong most of the time. As somebody who's an expert on being wrong, the worst thing for me is hearing somebody try to convince me that it was right or that it wasn't wrong. That's what bothered me about the explanation. Even at Jim Diapolis saying uncatchable, and he threw some shade at Tim Tebow. Said a Tim Tebow pass 15 yards in front of you is uncatchable. He knew he shouldn't have said it, but it was funny nonetheless. Bottom line is, don't sit up here and tell me all the reasons why it wasn't pass interference when everybody who's ever watched football knew that was pass interference.
Yeah, I mean,
we can't assume that he would.
Generally speaking, in sports, I mean, I don't know how about you guys are, but generally speaking, your gut instinct is, woo, that was a foul.
Yes.
Almost always.
Right.
I mean, we all kind of have, I always say the same thing with bullpens in baseball. I can't follow every team, there's too many. How do you feel when the guy runs into the mound? Your gut feeling as a fan is right. I don't think he protects that lead. Same in sports. The first gut feeling on a call is generally as a fan right.
And apparently that the first official certainly thought that.
Right. Even Jeff Fisher, Rams coach, longtime member of the competition committee, said that there was a reason why the flag was thrown. They should not have picked it up. Everybody's weighing in on this. Should the NFL admit they made a mistake? The numbers say yes. Like Drake, just own it. The NFL's VP of officiating said it was the right call because the contact on Gronkowski occurred simultaneously with the interception. Well, the numbers did the math, and Gronk was actually contacted 0.4 of a second before the ball was picked off. That's what you call a bang-bang play, judgment call. And our progressive straight for the cash game of the night, Pacers at Knicks. Tonight on ESPN, 94% of people online, it's got to be a record, are picking the Pacers to win. Tells you all you need to know about the state of the New York Knicks right now.
And who are the 6% that actually think they're going to win?
They all work for Numbers Never Lie. They all look for stuff in the balance.
They got to be in boroughs.
Exactly.
We hit the lottery because we are joined by Colin Cowherd, author of You Heard Me. If I'll say it, if nobody else will. We know that about you for sure. Congratulations on this.
Yeah, it was 2.5 years in the process with Tim Kuhn, best-selling author. And, as radio, sometimes you can't burrow in on stories as much as you can in books. And you guys are writers, you know this. So it was just kind of a chance to spread my wings and really go deep on certain stories and theories I've always had about sports. And it's not easy, but it's the best thing I've ever done, I think.
So we kept you around so we can go even deeper on this Jameis Winston story. The number of the news for Jameis Winston is 20. In this week's HeismanPundit.com straw poll, the FSU freshman is first with 20 points, 4 fewer than last week. Now, he remains ahead of Johnny Manziel, though in the midst of an investigation into an alleged sexual assault that took place in December 2012. According to an email obtained by the Tallahassee Democrat, the woman told Tallahassee police that she did not want to pursue charges after police started interviewing witnesses at the time. The case was reopened last week and referred to the state attorney because they had received new information. Once again, Winston has not been charged, but here's a statement released by the family. The family was shocked to hear that Winston's attorney was not only aware of the case, but had been told by Tallahassee Police Department that the case had been closed in February. All the while, the family was awaiting blood work results until early April. It was never the intent of the victim or the family for this to become public. The victim was trying to move on with her life, which has now been turned upside down once again. We have not been the source of any information prior to this release. There was no benefit in that. Now, once again, no charges have been filed against Winston, and according to his attorney, he has not been interviewed by police. He has declined to speak, which is his constitutional right. What's your reaction to this ever-developing story, Colin?
Well, there's a victim here, so that's what I'm concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
In small towns, influence is currency. And in small towns, football programs can reign supreme, especially often in the Midwest or the South. And I worry about the influence. In a separate incident, Auburn and Alabama, we had a former state trooper poison a tree. There's a line between fandom and zealotry that I'm uncomfortable with. I grew up in a small town, and I love college football. I just hope everybody in this instance remembers there is a victim.
Accuser.
Or an accuser.
Technically,
Yes.
right,
Technically.
right.
Yes.
Alleged.
So let's before we cheer for our team, the family, as is generally the case statistically, doesn't want it public.
Well, twice in this statement, what struck me is one, at the top of it, they said she thought that the situation was behind us, and then later on, the part I just read, moved on with her life. So it almost sounds like, at the suggestion of police, the alleged victim, the accuser, had decided not to go forward with this. That's what it sounded like.
I'm almost more concerned by the suggestion of police.
Yes.
The story I read was, hey, it's a big football town, and
Yeah.
Right.
if there's a crime, allegedly. So that, we've all been covering sports for a long time. We know how this game works. In smaller towns with football factories, stuff is brushed under the table with star athletes especially. That concerns me. Now, I don't have enough information, but from what I'm reading, there are those kind of telltale comments and signs, and football's big here. That's always worried me.
And sometimes, the athletes themselves may not be asking for the influence.
That's exactly right.
Or the program.
However,
there's an assumed influence, like, oh, they're Florida State football. This is just what we do here.
Right.
So that needs to be said as well. And I think probably the reason the family pointed that out, that they had no desire for this to become public, is because, and I started hearing this as soon as we knew that he was involved in terms of there was some allegation concerning sexual assault, that there was this sort of conspiracy theory floating out there that, oh, somebody just leaked this just to ruin his Heisman chances, and somebody's trying to smear his name.
Right.
And so they probably want the public to know it was not us. There's no benefit. And I agree, and this is the unfortunate, sad case when it comes to sexual assault cases. It becomes the accuser gets put on trial.
Yes.
And we've seen this play out. We saw it play out in Steubenville. So much goes on. A lot is already being said about somebody we don't even know. Social
media has exacerbated this. You can't hide anymore. You can find people's addresses. So you live in a town like Tallahassee, and I've been there. I'm sure a lot of people watching have been there.
Yeah, I've been there many times too.
It's not a big town. We have had Ohio State kickers have death threats after games. They're on a campus. So in a small town, not in Dallas or Chicago, LA, New York, Minneapolis, but in a small town, you can't hide. Social media, name gets out, addresses. People fear for their life in situations like this, and they're often the victims.
Does this statement kind of hurt the benefit of the doubt that Jameis Winston was getting in terms of being innocent until proven guilty? By that I mean this. It's one thing when you have reports that the accuser alleged that her attacker was 5'10" and Winston 6'4".
Yes.
Now you got a statement that's clearly saying, at the time of the alleged incident, unknown attacker. Then she identified Jameis Winston. Then she was told not to pursue charges because of his standing with the football program. And now they basically swept it under a rug. We were talking about this earlier. Colin is Jameis in some people's mind maybe even guilty by association. Does this now hurt his credibility because he hasn't spoken on his behalf?
Well,
I know.
I'm not sure I think that, because as an 18 or 19-year-old college kid, I don't think you should speak on your behalf until we have all the information. I said on my radio show the other day, this is one of these stories I get about 3 a year. I want to be last.
Yes.
Yeah.
I let everybody else win this story.
No, there's no winner. Yeah, exactly.
No pro. He doesn't have any back. This is not Richie Incognito where there's a resume and a history.
Right.
Jameis Winston, to this point, he's just a 19-year-old athlete on college who's really good.
Right.
So in this instance, I wouldn't speak until all the facts are in, because I'm still kind of reaching for information.
Yeah, which is why earlier we disagreed about whether or not he should still get most people's Heisman vote. Hey, you got our vote. One of our best guests. Appreciate you always stopping by, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, there's an NBA doubleheader tonight on ESPN at 7. It's Pacers-Knicks. Then at 9:30 Eastern, Rockets and Mavs.
So, Jemele, back when we were growing up, a lot of words could be used to describe former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. Funny was not one of them. This is the baddest man on the planet, and all of a sudden, he's managed to become one of the funniest men on the planet. Take a look. Check out this Foot Locker commercial. Get ready to laugh.
Man, that's finally the week of greatness at Foot Locker.
A whole week of the most premium kicks? Feels like all is right with the world.
I'm sorry, Evander. It's your ear.
I okay?
Well, that's great. But a man's got to know when to walk away.
So, Mr. Rodman, round trip to North Korea?
One way. He's never coming back! Thanks.
Things just feel different.
And we want to welcome in one of the stars of that extremely funny commercial, former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson, who also is an author. His book, Undisputed Truth, is out now, and he's currently touring the world with the production of Undisputed Truth, which is a story of his compelling and rich life story. Mike, I have never seen that commercial before, the Foot Locker one with you and Evander Holyfield. Considering how controversial that situation was, did you ever imagine there would come a time where you'd be laughing about it, making a spoof about it, and a commercial?
Not in a million years. No, not in a million years.
Yeah, you actually laugh about a lot of your life, a lot of your ups and downs. I got a chance to see the HBO, the Spike Lee joint for Undisputed Truth, your Broadway play. And I was just amazed, Mike, at how much comedic timing you have. Just your stage presence, your performance, everything. Where did that come from? Have you always been a performer? Have you always had that sense of humor?
Well, it didn't start off like that. It started off to be more of a drama suspense stage show. But when I discussed some parts of my life, the crowd started cracking up. And at first I didn't know how to take it because it was a serious moment.
Right.
So I realized if they're laughing, it's a good show, so I made more light of it.
Well, I am about halfway through your book, Undisputed Truth, and it's very compelling reading. And I thought I knew a lot about you, but I'm learning even more so reading this book. And one of the things that you said in it, it really struck me. Everyone knows about your rape conviction, and you said it's funny, but it took me a long time to realize that the little white woman judge who sent me to prison just might have saved my life. Had you not gone to prison, Mike, what do you think would have become of your life?
Well, I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know, but I wasn't living a pretty healthy life back then, so anything's capable of happening. And I was pretty dark back then, so I don't know. Maybe something good would have came out, so I don't know. But I guess from my experience of my life, I didn't think anything good was going to come out of that.
You've always been an extremely honest person, and recently, or relatively recently, one of the admissions you made was that you were struggling in terms of your sobriety. Where do you stand now as far as that's concerned?
Well, I just got my 90-day chip today. I went to 2 meetings. I got 2 chips today. And, Yeah, I got 95 days.
Congratulations.
You have a deep respect and a deep knowledge of boxing history. Historically, where would you rank yourself among the heavyweights?
Well, that's not my job to rank myself. You know, that's the job of the people who saw me fight and the historians at my particular time that watched me fight, for them to rank me. For me to rank myself, I can't do that. That's for your guys to do.
All right, I'll ask it this way then. Knowing what you know about all the heavyweights in history, which heavyweights do you think would have beaten you?
I don't know. Depends on what night I was fighting them. I think I'm pretty good. And regardless of who could beat me or not, they would know they was in a fight.
One of the things that you talk about in your book is how badly you were kind of bullied as a child. What kind of impact would you say being bullied had on you even through adulthood?
It's something in your life you never forget. I don't care how old you get, you just always remember that feeling.
What is it about that sticks with you even now?
Helplessness.
What do you mean?
There's nothing that you could do. This guy is overwhelming. You're afraid of him. Not knowing, because I was in fear, not knowing if I would have struck him, it would have been all over. But I was just too afraid to do so.
And you, at one point, you were the baddest man on the planet, so it's fascinating to hear you talk about that. Were you following the Jonathan Martin, Richie Incognito situation going on in Miami from the NFL, and what did you think about that?
I don't know. It's very difficult to get an opinion of this because these guys were friends. They were used to horsing around a certain particular way. I think Jonathan should just man up and just he's 300 pounds. I don't know. Listen, I don't want to be politically incorrect, but this is a 300-pound giant, and he should man up. It's not like this guy is overwhelming him and this guy is much bigger than him. I don't know. I just handle things differently in this particular fashion, and I don't know. Maybe he's going by the right channels of doing it. Maybe I'm just a neophyte in handling these things, and maybe I'm just stupid, a dunce. So maybe he's doing the right thing, but I don't see the other guy as being the bad guy. I just don't. I'm sorry if it's not what everybody think it should be. I just don't see him being the bad guy.
Well, now going around the world and you're sharing some of your story, have you been surprised by how people have received it? It seems like you've resonated, your story has resonated with a lot of people.
Well, a lot of people experience what I experienced. That's why I don't think my life is so different than anyone else. It's just that I'm explaining and expressing it. I'm sure many people are very familiar with that lifestyle because that's what human people do. They live that kind of lifestyle even if they're wealthy. This is the lifestyle some people live. People deal with life on life terms, and sometimes we don't pass the test as well as we think we do. We got to go through the test over and over again to get the right results.
You're also very open, both on stage and in the book, that you never truly knew your father, and you had a complicated relationship with your mother. But what's also clear is how you feel about your children. It was really touching seeing some of the pictures and you talking about your children. What kind of father is Mike Tyson trying to be?
I suck at that. That's just where I'm desperately useless in that particular field, and I just tried basically to, when I was heavyweight champ, baddest man on the planet, whatever they called me back then, I caused a whole bunch of records in my children's life and stuff, and I'm doing a lot of amends. I'm making amends now, so I don't consider I'm not like their father. I'm their father when I'm with them, and now I'm not around. Somebody else is their father, like their mother's boyfriend or something. But I showed them. I just want them to know I loved them, and we were friends, and I'm so grateful to be friends. Because if I was them, I wouldn't be friends with me. And so I'm very humbled that they're my friend and we can associate with one another. But I'm more like a favorite uncle to them than a father, and I'm just not the father material. God didn't build me in that structure. I never had enough practice in that particular field. The most practice I'm getting with my younger children now, and still mostly my best friends and people that work for me is more their father than I am. I'm just not suitable for that, but I have the love and caring for them. I love them. I die and kill for them. But to go through the movements of a father, I don't know, conventional, the way people do now, I don't think I'm capable of. I don't know if I can do that stuff. I've never been good at it.
Well, you talk about them with such love and affection. I can't help but sit here wondering, why do you think you're not father material?
I'm just not. We could talk. Anybody could talk. Talk is there, anything. Anybody could talk. I don't put in the work. I'm not with them physically. I'm just not there. And that just doesn't make me feel good. That I had children from different people, and then they're from on different sides of the country, and it's just almost impossible for me to be there with them all simultaneously. It's just that's what I'm on, and I'm not a happy person, in life. I'm just not that way. But the only time I am is when I have them all in one place. Then I'm very excited.
We're happy to have you, Mike. Last thing before we get out, what do you think would make you happy right now? What is it that you're still searching for at this point?
Well, listen, I don't know what I'm searching for. I don't know. Listen, I don't know what happy is. I can't be happy, 24 hours a day. That's just impossible. You're happy momentarily in spots, but I don't know that feeling of being happy, perpetual happiness. I don't know that. But as I was saying, the only time when I'm at my best and being happy, when I have all my children in one spot and I'm with them, that's when I'm most happiest. Yes.
All right. Well, hey, it was a pleasure for us to have you, man. All the best. Continued success. We're enjoying the show.
It's really nice to speak with you as well. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Thanks,
we
Mike.
appreciate that.
You know what time it is. It's time for numbers you need to know. Starting with the number for Oklahoma State sophomore Marcus Smart, you need to know is 39. That's how many points he dropped last night against Memphis. Kevin Durant said he was there. He watched. He said he could play in the league right now, Jamel. Speaking of smart decision coming back to school. He looks like he's improved his jumper, and he's always been a good defender.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive thing because so many kids feel like if they come back, they lose out. All right, the number for Waffle House is 341.
Say with some enthusiasm.
They serve 341 strips of bacon per minute nationwide. Bacon is good. So, of course, Cam Newton went to Waffle House to celebrate the win over the Patriots on Monday night. That's bad.
No, it's not.
That's terrible.
That's actually quite endearing.
No, it's proof that he really doesn't love his teammates. It's a reason why they call
from Atlanta
Waffle House Awful House.
Well, they don't call it anything. You need to stop being so sadistic. That's what you need to quit doing. Acting like you ain't never had a good meal at the Waffle House.
I haven't. I love cheap food.
Smothered, covered, or scattered.
I choose none of the above.
Really?
No, it's terrible. It's not clean. It's just, I know everybody loves it as their favorite after the club. I'm sorry, I like clean silverware. Is that wrong?
You act like you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yeah, a clean one though.
The number for Dwayne Wade that you need to know is 3. As in 3 the hard way. That's the name of the sitcom that Wade just sold to Fox based on his life as a single parent. Asked who would play him, D. Wade said, somebody handsome. Sweet. I got a little acting skills.
Yeah, because you do act like you know what you're doing.
I
like that, don't you?
Yeah. I like the show. I like D. Wade. Give me a cameo. That's all I'm asking for.
Who are you supposed to play?
A sportscaster.
Oh, what a stretch of a role.
Well,
I wonder if Gabrielle Union is going to pay herself. See? Maybe she'll do it for free. You don't have to pay all her high acting fees.
See? Sounds like a great show.
It does.
We can at least get like voices where we like doing a show talking about Dwayne Wade. We can have like a Numbers Never Lie cameo. In the meantime, you can download our podcast, ESPN.com/PodCenter. Subscribe on iTunes, both the Numbers Never Lie and His and Hers. Till next time, I'm Dwayne Wade. Actually, I'm Michael Smith. We'll see you later.